If you're an amateur and you want to instantly turn into a pro photographer, the one lens you need to get is the 50mm f1.8, the nitty fitty. Yo, what up, y'all? Tight Shirt Terry Warfield. As y'all see, I'm out here in the elements. Hope you're having a good day so far. If this is your first time here, yo, a fat welcome to you. And if you're part of the fam, part of the squad, you came back, hey, welcome back. I'm so happy to see your face. Do me a favor, drop a like on the video and put your like number below down in the comments. Do that right now. Listen, I read a comment on Facebook the other day that said, yo, if you're an amateur and you want to instantly turn into a pro photographer, the one lens you need to get is the 50mm f1.8, the nitty fitty. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. A bunch of reasons why I think if you're a beginner or no matter what your skill level, really, why I think you should keep a 50mm f1.8 joint in your bag. Let's go. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's talk about reasons why you should get you a nitty fitty, right? Now, I got to say this first. If you have a crop sensor camera, you'll want to look at like a 35mm because of the crop factor. Sony, Canon, most brands crop factor is a 1.5 times crop if it's an APS-C camera. So most of us will fall into that crop sensor camera range or the full frame camera range. If you're using a crop sensor, you'll want to look at like a 35mm. 35 times your 1.5 is going to get you close to 50mm. Now, reason number one why I think you should get a nitty fitty is because of cost. I know there's a lot more expensive lenses out there. I own some very expensive lenses, but I will never sell this lens because I got it for so cheap. Usually you could get a nitty fitty for around like $200 to $300, and it is one of the cheapest ways that you can upgrade your camera quality in photos and video from that cheapo punk kit lens that most camera manufacturers give you with the camera. So the cost versus performance per dollar is really, really good when it comes to El Cheapo nitty fitty millimeter. Great image quality in photo and video. Easiest way to step up your image quality, and that's number one. All right, second and third reasons I think everybody should have a nitty fitty, right? Number two, ease of use. Okay, and I'm saying that from like an amateurish perspective, right? Because you could get a whole lot of focal lengths. You could get like a 24mm or you could get like a 135mm, right? But both of those require a skill set to use those to get good pictures out of them. You could go 35. 35 is a good focal length, but the only problem with 35 is unless you get like one of the pricier ones, there's really no separation. You get more of the environment, but there's really no like subject isolation like you get with a 50mm. Now some of y'all might say, oh no, go ahead and get an 85mm. And while I'm a big fan of 85mm, the problem with those is, in my opinion, there's not enough background information. So all you see is the subject, but it's not enough context like what's going on around them. By the way, if y'all see anything crazy come up behind me, like some type of tropical bear or moose, let me know and I will turn around and tighten him up. I'm not even joking. Our field of view that we see is actually close to 50mm. So it only makes sense that when you look through one of these, you take the picture, bam, it looks exactly how you thought it was gonna look. Conversely, like if you were to take a picture with a 24mm, yo, I'm looking at it right here, but if I take it with a 24mm or something wide, then it's gonna have a whole different look because it's a wide angle lens, and that applies to all of the other types of lenses too. But that's the second reason, is ease of use. It is so easy to just pick up a 50mm, get dope shots, keep it moving. That goes for video too because the perspective is just so good. The third reason why I think you should get a 50mm is because of the f1.8 aperture. Now, I'm not gonna get super technical. I got a whole video explaining what shutter speed is, ISO, and aperture, right? I'll link that right up there in the description. But the f1.8 aperture allows you to absorb a whole lot more light than, let's just say, a kit lens that might be at f3.5 or whatever like that. So in short, it's good. It gives you more low light capability. But that leads me to number four. So you got the low light capability f1.8. Let's talk about bokeh. Number four, bokeh, or is it bokeh, or however you want to say it, background blur. Let's get it. Yo, I'm out here risking life and limb for y'all. I'm itching so bad, and no, I don't got fleas. It's because I've been bitten by freaking everything out here. But this is what I get for always trying to come out here and make videos for y'all instead of sitting in my basement, right? But let's talk about bokeh. If you don't know what bokeh is, right? Bokeh is background blur. That's the stuff that everybody wants from the camera. Honestly, that's one of the things that in a lot of cases, I'm not gonna say in all cases because it's not, but in a lot of cases, it's one of the things that gives the photo a really, really good professional look. Video too, everybody wants the blurry background, the sauce, the cinematic, that background blur. Now, there's a few ways that you can get that, which I'm not gonna get into in this video, but in short, the focal length of 50mm combined with a aperture of f1.8 basically gives you the sauce. This lens is perfect for portraits. If you need a portrait lens, it's not too expensive. I have taken pictures with this lens and also taken pictures with the Sony 50mm f1.2 gangster mode, which cost way more than this. I got this for like 150 bucks. That lens is what, 22,000 some odd dollars. And most people cannot tell the difference. Now, obviously the trained eye can spot the difference, but most people cannot tell the difference, and that should tell you something. That is why a lot of portrait photographers stick with 50mm f1.8s, f1.4s, f1.2s as portrait lenses, because the depth of field that they give you, the background blur that they give you, it's just good. Like, it's just so easy to get dope pictures, B-roll, everything with a 50mm f1.8. Now, are these perfect? Obviously not. When you get the cheaper ones, they usually have slow autofocus. They usually don't have weather sealing. A lot of them are noisy, like the Sony one is just freaking noisy. But again, it's one of those easy ways that if you don't want to spend a lot of money, if you just dropped a ton of money on your camera, that you can really up your photo and video game just by slapping on a 50mm. And that's what I really love about it. Let's get into the next reason, reason number 5. Okay, now reason number 5 for me is not really a 50mm thing, but it's just a prime lens thing. Prime lenses, although I do love my zoom lenses, I've made several videos about that. Prime lenses kind of force you to, like, they force you to be more creative, because you can't just like stand from afar with a 70-200 and pop shots of people, right? It forces you to be creative. It forces you to walk around. I really like that, yo. If you combine that with one of my techniques that I do where you simulate your camera having one roll of film, it really makes like for some interesting photo sessions, because it makes you think about your compositions. And that is one thing that I really like to do. The next reason that I really love 50mm, hold up, let me switch arms because my shoulder about to give out. It's just because they're inexpensive, which I kind of talked about already, but like they're throwaway lenses to me. I would much rather take my 50mm with me than taking a much more expensive lens in the case that something were to happen to it. Now, obviously in those situations where I need those lenses, I'm gonna take those lenses. But normal day-to-day stuff, like, yo, I would much rather slap on my 50mm and throw it in the bag and not have to worry about it, right? So that's one of the big reasons why I love 50mm. Did I look like a creep? Okay, last reason, and I kind of talked about this a little bit, is just because of perspective. One thing you'll learn, if you haven't learned it already, especially with photography, is different focal lengths make people look different. So, like a 17mm lens like I'm using right now, if I get too close to it like this, actually, let me zoom out to 17, hold up. See how it makes my face all wide and distorted? Yo, you don't have to worry about none of that stuff at 50mm. And that's powerful for people who are just getting into portrait photography or talking head photography for interviews and stuff like that. So it doesn't distort people, even like a 35mm can in some situations. All in all, I think the 50mm f1.8, it don't matter what camera brand you use, it don't matter what 50mm f1.8 that you can get, whether it's the cheap one, whether it's the more expensive ones. This is one of the easiest way, if you go the cheap route, to up your photo and video game on a budget that's easy to use, that it doesn't take a whole lot of guesswork to figure out angles and all of that stuff. Yo, 50mm f1.8 is where it's at. Now again, this is the Sony FE 50mm f1.8. I'll put a link to this in the description. I still love this lens and I will never sell it, although it is trash in some ways. It's really good in some ways too for the price, and there's no reason for me to sell it because I got it so cheap. So this is a great lens to keep your camera bag at all times. Hopefully this video was good for you. I hope you liked it. I hope you appreciate me literally turning into bug lunch to make this freaking video. I am itching all over, but that's cool because I love y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here because it's getting late and it's about to rain. So till next time, piece of chicken grease. I'm out here at Warfield. Peace.